Good morning and welcome back. Welcome to Who Am I? I'm sorry I have not been broadcasting for a while. I have been creating shows in the studio. I have not been posting because I have been experiencing an interesting human phenomenon known as doubt. I've been doubting the whole mission, doubting not from my personal side. I know that who am I is still the quest and the goal for myself, but sometimes I wonder and doubt about what do I have to say to the greater body of humanity. After all, who am I? I'm just this, who am I? I'm just this one cell in a super body of billions. You know, it's easy to feel small. So if you're feeling small out there, I get you. I feel you. I understand it. And we're going to help understand who we are. We're going to ask that question as many ways as we can. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? As many ways. Actually, every time you change the emphasis, you actually change the question. So, let's get started. What is the meaning of this show? We ponder the nature of humanity, where we came from, where we're going, what's it all about, what's the object of the exercise, how does our biotechnology work? Because you don't just jump in, flying by the seat of your pants, churning with a mix of positive and negative emotions and hurl yourself at the world willy-nilly without understanding how the equipment works and expect to get exactly what you want or even close to it right out the gate. And there's a whole lot of people dealing with just that kind of a situation. Maybe they grew up in a situation when they were small where there were emotions raging around them because their parents were in turmoil for whatever reason. When you grow up that way, then your emotions are harder for you to deal with, harder for you to understand. But whether you were raised gently or whether you were raised roughly, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does matter. It matters in the amplitude of what you as an individual are dealing with. That's how it matters. But it doesn't matter in the fundamental basic design of us because it's all the same. We are all designed from the direction that I'm talking about. Our general design is all the same. And I'm talking general. Which general design are we talking about? Things like we are vibrational beings in a vibrational universe. It truly is vibrational. And the vibration is of the situation. The vibration is primary. You may think that the materiality is primary, and so you're focusing that direction, trying to get it to shift from that perspective. But the fact of the matter is that the primary factor going on is vibration. You are vibration. You're vibrational beings in a vibrational universe. We are all connected to this great source pattern that is forming us all. But don't consign it to an other because it's actually you. And how you identify is so key to this whole formula. And where I think we're headed as human beings, we're heading for a place where we do understand ourselves. And when we get there, we have a lot of wonderful prizes waiting for us. And the first one of which is through the lack of our resistance to how it really works, the whole field is going to bloom in a way that you've never seen before. I am so excited to be looking forward to this moment in time when we get past not knowing who we are and we can really lean into the joyful task of just being who we are without pushback, with all of us working together in this new way. And so what am I really talking about? I'm talking about a basic general understanding of the general setup that we all find ourselves in, our general equipment, how you are two minds. There are the answer to your runaway emotions and your restless or because it's not about control. What would the word be? I don't want to use the word runaway. Again, I just said that. It's your monkey mind. The one that just thinks about what it wants to think about. You seem to have your own self that you have deep control over, and then you have this other one. Really weird. And the more you try to control yourself, the more wacky the other one goes. Because it's not about control. It's about allowance. You're trying to harness something in that would be a terrible thing if you harnessed it in. You can't harness it in. You're trying to harness the unharnessable. And instead, you're creating a really weird energy field, you know. So let's just unpack it. Let's just talk about who we are. You are two minds. You are one body who has a physical brain that is producing a vibrational mind. You know about that person, right? Everybody knows about this one. This is the one that goes to see the doctor. This is the one that you think is making decisions. You know, you make decisions and you are in control of things, and you, I'm air quoting the word you, are keeping track. That's one of the minds that you are. You have another mind, and you may not know about it. And depending on how you are dealing with it and how small you are getting, or how down on yourself you're trying to be, or I don't know, you might be really going against a part of yourself that you can't escape from just because you don't know it's there. And as a matter of fact, this being that exists inside of you is the answer to all things. It's the answer to the nature of your impulses, where and how you are getting them, and how you are reacting to them, and how your emotions are playing out. All of this is all coming from your vibrational dual nature. And if so, the larger part of yourself you can't get away from. And I'm not talking about your physical body. I'm talking about the other one. The other one is really the one that's so big you can't get away from her. She's the one who is vibrationally in touch with the whole rest of the field. That's why she's the bigger one. She might be where she meets you. She is anchored in you. She knows how you and through her, from your position, you have access to the holographic information set of the whole universe. She knows. She knows. She knows who you are. She knows where you are in space and time, on the grid, in the field. She knows how you link to everything else, how you are moving and how everything else is moving in physicality. That's what she's looking at. And how she's looking at it is she is holographically in touch with the universe through this field of information and energy that connects us all, that Nassim Haramein talks about all the time. This spinning space-time, this fullness of spinning space-time, this holographic fullness of spinning space-time, this black hole structure, this scaling black hole structure of spinning fullness of space-time. Did Did I keep all of them? Or did I lose some of those as I started trying to add in the characteristics of this really cool, energetically and informationally linked field of Planck's and desire and intention that we are. That's what we are. Now, what we're being can be entirely something else, and I'm going to postulate that a lot of what we're being is plays out different than we think it should or whatever, because we don't understand who we are. And that's where I think that this discussion is going to help the matter. It will help the matter. People are going to come to this conclusion. They're going to come to understand the vibrational nature of ourselves and the meaning of our duality. The duality that's really important, you just talk about, you go to philosophy class, and they talk about all these different philosophies. Well, these people thought X, and those people thought Y, and these other people thought Z, and my people thought M, and etc., etc. And you try to sort it all out from that position. Well, who's telling the truth? Who's telling the truth? It doesn't work like that. It's not exactly, don't think of it that way. You're not sorting out to see who's right and sorting out who else, all of the others must be wrong. There's a completely different task that's going on.
And try to figure out what that is.
You're trying to understand.
You're going to end up understanding what
actually, where did I want to go with that?
But what the object of the exercise really
the object of the exercise, while you think you might be thinking that you need to project it outwards to what you see as the quantum soup around you, and try to figure out what that is. And you're going to end up there. You're going to end up understanding what it is. But what the object of the exercise really is, because you actually can't figure it out. You can't figure out that task from that position. Projecting outwards and trying to figure out what it outside of you is. That's actually not what you're trying to do. What you're trying to do is you're trying to input information from the outside world into yourself.
The primary question is not what's out there.
In order to strike chords.
Who am I? Who am I?
So that you can know who you are. And then from that position, now you
from my perspective, and everybody knows
now you choose your response to what is going on out there, which actually is the secondary question. The primary question is not what's out there, and it's who am I? Who am I? Who am I? When these things happen and I feel certain ways, what does it mean? Because obviously, from my perspective, and everybody knows this from their own perspective, but from the outside, not everybody from the outside knows what you know from the inside. And I'll tell you what you know that not everybody always knows about everybody else. But everybody knows it about themselves. Everybody knows for themselves that they are a nice person. Deep inside. Now I'm saying even people who know that they are not being a nice person, they know somewhere deep down inside of themselves that there was an intention to make things better, or maybe an acting out of complete berserker frustration because things aren't better, because the peace that you really want and the love that now your cynical heart is far, far away from, you yourself know that that's who you really are, even if you've gotten way far away from it. You
We don't
know who
understand
you are
the
deep,
bully
deep,
that
deep
we are
inside.
being
Now, why
to
is
the
all that?
outside world,
Why
the
is all of that
destructive
important?
demon that we are
Well, because
actually
I'm going to postulate
presenting
that
to
we
the
are all
world at
good.
times when
We all
we
have
ever
good
want
intentions.
to do
We just,
is
many, many,
help
many of us
the
have gotten
situation.
ourselves turned
Don't
backwards.
a lot of us feel that way?
And we are operating
I
from a
do.
negative self
I don't
that we
ever
don't
wanna hurt the
understand.
situation.
And our
You know,
intentions
sometimes
are so deeply buried.
no, I'm
We
better
don't
at
understand
noticing
the
negative
the
effect of
bully
other
that we are
people's negative
being to the
emotions on
outside
the
world, or
than
the
my own.
destructive
Of course,
demon
because you can't see yourself
that we
in
are
that way.
actually
And not
presenting
only
to the
that,
world
I
at times when
actually
all
have
we
gotten
ever
fairly
want
good
to do
at almost
is
never
help
being in negative
the situation. Don't a lot of us feel that way? I know I do.
Actually
I don't ever
need
want to
to.
hurt the situation,
You
but
don't actually
you know,
personally
sometimes
need to get into negative emotions yourself.
now
You
I'm
could
better
start
at noticing
using
the
certain
negative effect of other people's
truths
negative
in the
emotions
world
on the
around
world than
you
my
in
own.
the
Of course,
side
because you
view
can't
of
see
your
yourself from
vision.
that side.
So it's like,
And
I
not
see
only
you,
that,
six
I
mass extinction that I
actually
don't
have
like over there in
gotten
my side view,
fairly
but I'm not
good
focusing
at
on you.
almost never
I'm
being
focusing
in
on
negative emotion.
the wonderful place that
You don't
humanity
actually
is headed
need
for.
to. You don't actually
And we're
personally
headed
need
for
to get into negative emotion yourself. You could start using certain truths in the world around you in the side view of your vision. So it's like, I see you, six mass extinction, that I don't like over there in my side view, but I'm not focusing on you. I'm focusing on the wonderful place that humanity is headed for. And we are headed for a wonderful, wonderful place, because this wonderful place is going to be where we understand who we are and how it works, and we quit resisting the pattern and the flow and the beauty of what's trying to unfold around us. We quit
more ideological, more
letting someone else try to cram the solution in around us. If we have an authoritarian calling the shots, especially a chaotic authoritarian, what we don't want right now, please, God, do not assassinate Trump.
He's not somebody else.
Because I'd be afraid that somebody else, more ideological, more harsh, more visionary, he's chaotic. And so as he flings the power around, it's easier for us to see ourselves, to see what we do, to see who we are, because he's us. Quit looking at him as though he's somebody else. He's not somebody else. He's us. He's a deep reflection of a big part of us, especially in the United States. Our worship of billionaires on the one hand, and our hatred of them on the other hand, that's crossed energy, people. It's crossed energy. It's not going to get us what we want. It's going to get us confusion. It's going to get half of ourselves working towards what we want, and the other half of ourselves, punching it back down. That's what crossed energy will get you. It doesn't get you. It's like the individual with crossed energy spends half of their time building their house, and the other half of their time getting drunk and angry and taking a hammer and smashing what they built down. Or metaphorically speaking, that's kind of what you do as you half of the time you're studying, and then the other half of the time you're carousing and not giving a flying F, because you don't care about the studies that they're trying to get you to study, and you don't believe in the viability of the system that you're being asked to be a part of. And so part of you is just not all that interested, but your parents' part of you is shaking their finger and saying, you better be interested, because this is how the system works, buddy, and you need to be part of the system. Well, you are part of the system, first of all, and there is a wonderful system that has developed all around us, and it's much better than the system used to be. Back in the when I was growing up, 60s and 70s, the distribution system of humanity had not crossed the whole planet quite as well. There was, some goods coming from it, but the full-throated circulation of goods and services and human beings traveling and ideas and thoughts now with the internet. Those ideas can get around the planet way faster than the people can. Click of a button and I'm on the air talking about these things to the world.
Yoga instructor, or
unlike ever before. It's so cool, such a cool moment in time.
Even chiropractic or any of
and
so many jobs now
the jobs that were available, there was only a certain number of jobs. It wasn't like you couldn't be a internet influencer or a podcast creator or even a yoga instructor, or there wasn't a whole lot of credence in even chiropractic or any of there are so many jobs now going on in the alternative arts of healing because people are dismayed with a lot of what's going on over
John D. Rockefeller was very influential.
I just thought of something as I said, what's going on over in Western medicine? In my 20s, in the 1980s, I discovered the travesty of the pillar of vivisection supporting our paradigm of Western medicine, the way that it was designed. And it was John D. Rockefeller was very influential in setting up this design in the early part of the 20th century, where he set up a system of pharmaceutical companies, medical colleges, laws, and a legal structure defining how you could take pharmaceuticals to market and the kinds of testing that needed to be done prior to make sure that you were not selling wide-scale poisons to human beings that was going to cause birth defects or great bodily harm of, all kinds of things that could happen. You had to have a rigorous system of testing it first on animals, and then when you were reasonably sure that it wasn't particularly toxic, now you could, in limited ways, start testing it on people who were sick anyway, so you're just trying to help them, and if they get a little sicker, well, we were trying. That whole system was set up because it's very lucrative to come up with a product that you can stick in a bottle and sell to people. To sell to people worldwide by the billions and trillions of dollars. And it turns out it is a very lucrative model, but it takes this monstrosity in the background. And when I was looking at it, when I discovered it in my naive 20s, and I'm kind of living my life on my own. And I enjoyed living my life. I broke away from my home religion. My parents had got divorced, and my dad moved out of state, and my mom was a couple hundred miles away. I did live with a sister, but she was very, very live and let live. She was so sweet, and I felt supported and loved and connected, but there was nobody directing my path. There was nothing directing my path, as a matter of fact. And I wasn't even trying to find a relationship so I could get married and have children, or I was in college because that's just what you do, and I enjoyed learning anyway for its own sake, and in the process of learning you're kind of trying to figure out what you're doing anyway, and I didn't worry about it too much. I shot a lot of pool, and I had an imaginary a romantic relationship, as a matter of fact. It was, in a way, it wasn't imaginary. I mean, it was a person that I'd met on the telephone, but he was he started out in the same town as me, but almost immediately our towns diverged, and then he became a long distance thing that I didn't meet, and circumstances and I don't know, weird peculiarities kept interfering with us meeting, and I was so upset about it at the time because I was sure that the whole object of this thing was that I wanted this relationship that was just going to take care of me. But anyway, in the back of my mind, I sort of just let it sit. I allowed myself to imagine that I was taken care of, and I didn't have to do the dating scene like everybody else did. And I didn't really want children, so I didn't need to get married. What I needed to do was figure out what life was about, and I wanted to decide how I was making my own living. Tending bar was what I did. I was actually a pretty good bartender. Waited tables. I was a damn good waitress too, as a matter of fact. And it was fun. I really enjoyed that work, and I didn't look too far down the road. This is where I came up with, this is who I am. So you understand, what the hell kind of spirit does this person have? What does she think life is? I feel like I was fortunate in my early years by not being saddled with an object of the exercise from without, being imposed on me by my culture. I sort of was allowed to walk away from my culture and just go it on my own for a while and try to figure out what I was looking at. What am I looking at? I plopped down here on this planet, was born, kind of disoriented here. Now I'm trying to figure out, how does this work? Who am I? What's the object of the exercise? How do we link up? What is my guidance system? Do I have one from within myself, or do I have to depend on this code that my people, impose from without? And they impose it through laws and through, whatever. It's not laws that is going to make us safe. And it is not laws that is going to keep us together. Love will keep us together.
What will stop that
what is the
being allowed to shop at the grocery store.
No, I guess the first part of that song doesn't apply to us here, but no, laws are not going to be, laws right now are not keeping us safe. It's not the laws that are keeping us safe. It's people's general willingness to obey, to be orderly.
Where they want to go.
Because see, we're not gonna. What will stop that is people not being allowed to shop at the grocery store. People not being allowed to live under shelter. People not being allowed to move around the way they want to and need to. But I'll tell you how each individual could figure out how to find their own individual path to where they want to go. Because see, we're not gonna. I'm not telling this to the Congress. I don't need to speak this to Congress, and then they go pass all the laws, and then all of us do this, and then we'll all be okay. This message needs to go to individuals who understand individually as a cell. How do I find my way to what I want to do? It used to be you had a limited number of things to pick from. Fireman, teacher, nurse, doctor, insurance salesman, firefighter. I don't know. There's a few more than that. I mean, but it was a pretty small set because of what our technology allowed and how we connected to one another. Now there are so many ways that we connect to one another. And through our connections to one another, we find our connections to our own pathway to self. And actually what it's going to end up being is through our connections with each other, we all connect to the food supply, and we all will connect to the transportation systems, and we will all connect to the... Actually, one of the greatest things that is going to happen, and it may happen as early as 2027. They are predicting 2027 for this one, and when this one hits, it will probably be the perfect timing for the... I've heard some people claim that this is when full contact happens too. I think it's full contact, or open contact. Might not be full, but open, where we know that we are in contact with other life forms from other planets, from other places. That we are not alone, that it's not just us, that this universe that we thought was so empty is actually a lot more full than we thought that it was. But that's not what's going to happen in 2 years. The 2 years thing that's going to happen is that we will have viable source energy, that we will be able to plug into the field itself to power up our technology, that we no longer have to sell our soul to the devil in order to power our technology. We will not be faced with the Sophie's choice of either killing our planet or all of us somehow subverting our forward-thinking desires and all of us going backwards in time to where we were 50 years ago or 100 years ago when we thought we were the greatest. Whenever that was. 150 years ago, Gilded Age, modern 200 years ago, Founding Fathers, 250 years ago, Founding Fathers. I don't know. When was that? When were we great? And how do we go backwards to get great again? By reimposing things that we had that worked back then but aren't who we are now. We don't want to make ourselves great again with an image of ourselves from the past. We want to understand who we really are, and then be great with a forward-thinking view of the future. And that, I'm afraid, includes tremendous diversity and inclusion and whatever the E, ethnicity, or... I have no idea. Actually, I could go find out. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. The people who are smashing that, there may be reasons why they do that. And it's because the universe is equitable. And the answer is not to impose equity from without through laws. We could reflect through our laws and our rules a recognition of who we are. But if we're trying to impose that from the outside to people who don't get it, maybe we need to understand where it comes from, and then we would be more successful in making the diversity, equity, and inclusion in the system come about. If we understood who we were. How about that? That is my thesis statement to the world about all things. That the answer is not for anybody else to do anything different directly. Now, it's for yourself to understand something different, and then through different inspiration that you will now have from a different vantage point and a different perspective, you will move differently in the world, rendezvousing differently now with different things, and your influence on how you are influencing the field around you to flow. Now, that is different. And ultimately, hopefully, I'm thinking that the end desire is that you do have an influence on the field, a calming, organizing, soothing, influencing effect on the field around you. The target is still the physical world. But you have to understand that the physical world is a secondary effect. And you can't really go at it directly. You have to understand how it works. And the thing that you have to tend, more important than anything else, is the vibrational relationship that you carry between your dual selves. Now, I know people talk a lot about the duality of the world. In philosophy class, they'll talk about duality, the philosophy of duality, or, some people believe that that's one. Some people believe that it's all one thing, and other people believe that's two, that it's the thing is, there is duality, but the duality is not, I'll tell you where I put the duality, and you put it wherever you want, because it's all you aligning within yourself, your own consciousness, so that you can imagine the world around you in a more accurate to how it is way, first of all, but not just accurate, because it's very reflective. So accurate is a relative thing sometimes. You can play the win-lose game and the world will yield accurately right back to you, win-lose right back to you, with losers all over the place to prove it. However, what the world didn't show you when you did that is that it will also reflect back to you the perfect win-win if you play it that way, because it is a perfect reflector. So that is part of, when you're trying to understand what the world really is, you've got to take yourself kind of out of the picture, because depending on how you do that, you might just be seeing a big fat reflection of yourself coming back at you. You really aren't seeing the world. You're seeing yourself. And actually, that's a really big part of the equation, and it's a big part of what, how you can understand what the heck it is you're looking at. So now it becomes really important to be reflecting what you want, because the universe is going to give it back to you, whatever it is. And so if you're all excited about the crap in the world, the darkness, the horror, do you know how bad it is out there? How can you walk around acting like it's, I have looked into the abyss, buddy, and the matter is awful. And you're right. It is. The problem is, and this is the problem, you cannot directly fix it in a way that you'll like the way it's fixed, unless you're coming at it from alignment within your inner being. And you know what? Your inner being is not concerned about it. Your inner being feels just fine about everything. So what are you going to do with that? It means that you can't rush at the dying world in anger and do much other than just stir up more anger, more agitation, more blame, more guilt, more shame, more despair, more everything on that side of the scale. What's going to help the world is for us to find our light, not for us to point out each other's darkness. The darkness is there, people. We are awful. We are just awful. As awful as we need to be. And you know what? We also have seen the pattern. We watched it play out last century, and we know how bad that it can get. And thank God we did that in a little way before now the United States, the largest empire that has ever ruled the planet, the only empire, perhaps, that's ever ruled the planet. We don't really rule the planet, but my God, we have lots and lots and lots and lots of influence. And I think a lot of our influence is going to go away, because a lot of the influence we haven't realized has been given to us through friendship, through the friendship that the world has with American people, because we're nice people. for the most part. We're playful people. We're like big, thoughtless puppies, you know. I don't know. I actually don't know how the world sees us anymore since the since we elected the what's his name to be our king again. You know, I don't know what people were thinking. Actually, I do know what people were thinking. This is all an exercise in what I have been describing for the last over a year on the air, as I ramble on about Shiva energy and Loki energy. This is a prime example of exactly, and the reason it's happening is, well, it needs to happen because that's the way it is, for one thing, but also as an illustrative experience for all of us, as we have this thing that we can point to and we can all collectively look at it. It's a collective experience that we all now have common reference to, you know, and now we can talk about this thing. And with this common reference, we can now start talking about the subject I'm talking about, which is, who am I? And what the F is going on? How does this energy field that I abide in, how does it work? How does it function? How does understanding it solve all of our problems? And how does it help me understand who I am and what the object of the exercise is for myself and humanity, of which I am a part, by the way. Every single one of us is a cell in the body of humanity. Whether you are, you know, have just proclaimed yourself King of America, or whether you are a homeless person out, you know, panhandling in the street, you are a cell in the body of humanity, and your feelings matter. Your emotions matter. All of our emotions matter, and what they are trying to tell us about who we are and the layout of the situation on the grid. We actually have all of each other's information. Did you know that? We do. We have it in a general way. And then we have our own in specific, and all the rest of it we have in common and in general amongst each other. And that matters. We shouldn't be fighting with one another. We shouldn't be guarded with one another. We should be playful and loving and sharing with one another. But the same way that nature can do it, you know, there are places and times where in a space, the ecosystem that evolves is not guarded. But even when it's guarded, it gets along with one another. They just individually develop spines or electricity. I'll zap you. You know, you come near me, I'll zap you, I'll bite you. But you just mind your little business and you're okay. What is she rambling about now? Who are we? Who are we? I'll tell you one thing who we are. We are a superorganism. We are a superorganism, and we are stretched across this whole planet producing goods and services for one another. And what are these goods and services? They're everything from foodstuffs to building supplies. I'm just kind of going to give you the main categories of the things that we need. The other things, you know, there's fluff. There's a lot of fluff, you know, that would be probably fall under the categories of diversions, you know, because actually focus and attention is the sacred currency of consciousness, of the universe. Focus and attention. And so it is no wonder that different versions of focus and attention are monetizable. You get enough views over this way, and somebody's going to pay you money, because that's worth money. To get people's attention looking your direction, that's worth money. So it's very interesting. There's a lot of different ways to get people's attention. But actually, that isn't the primary thing I want to say. I was just pointing out that there are. What was I pointing out? I was talking about who we are as a superorganism, and what are the major things that we produce. The goods and the services, foodstuffs, building supplies, healing arts, entertainments and diversions, accommodations, long and short term. Then there's those who provide the systems that keep all of those things going: communications, transportation, distribution. What are all the... Anyway, that's who we are. When you put all of that together, you're like, oh, that is who we are. And we mutually assist with all of that. And how is it that we determine who takes which jobs? Well, in an autocracy, you might have somebody at the top who has it on a sheet who says, okay, these are all the jobs that we have, and I'm just going to tell people who, everybody over here, you're doing this job. You over here, you guys are on laundry detail. You guys over here, you guys build this. And da-da-da-da-da. If you have a visionary, a powerful visionary, surrounded by visionaries, passionate visionaries who have visions of what should be done and what they ought to do and what it would look like and all that kind of stuff, actually it would be terrible. You don't want visionaries doing shit like that. At least not unless they are powerfully driven by joyful impulses to create, and the people were all willingly, handing over their, sure, I'll let you think this through for me, because you are obviously thinking joyfully and you are on top of the bigger picture, and so I trust you. But if your leader is not fully in touch with his broader perspective, and I promise you ours isn't. He's too angry to be. He's too all over the place. He's too chaotic and dysfunctional. And as a matter of fact, that's basically what he is demonstrating, is chaos and dysfunction. And it's so crazy that we have handed the very reins of our sacred and blessed government, that how many people have fought and died for the last 250 years, that our whole tradition, historical tradition, is to honor that military sacrifice for our country. Started with the Revolutionary War and the Minutemen and the revolutionaries that broke away from England in the first place. Those were the first military men that we honored. And then we have the tradition of the Great Civil War and how that brought us closer to well, actually, what did it bring us closer to? Because there's still a whole bunch of people down in the South there who don't believe in sacrifice for the Union. And you know what? I don't know if I believe in sacrifice for the Union either. I don't know that Union... I don't know. The United States is a great, wonderful experiment and experience. But it's going to dissolve here. And what are we going to be left with? Can we salvage what we like out of it from the ashes of what's going down with it? It's not going to be what the structure of what saves us individually at individual points, because centralized power isn't the way. And we're too big to be a tribe, actually, and empire is not a good idea. And so much of our empire now is based on the fact that we won that war a century ago, and then after that, the military-industrial complex just kept getting bigger. Even with no war to fight, it just kept getting bigger. The war we could fight now, with the military hardware that we own now, could blow World War II right out of the water. Probably. I don't know. You look at you look at that flotilla of that when you see what invaded on D-Day, you see pictures of all of those ships in the water. Do we even have that many battleships? We don't need that kind of stuff now, because the weapons that we have now are so good. We can zoom in there, drop bombs, zap it with a laser accuracy, target, boom. It's a whole different thing. We're going to have to let that go, people. Actually, physically speaking, I really don't know where and how a lot of this is going to shake out. So I don't want to get too specific about things that take me down rabbit holes and then make it impossible for me to post my shows. Because I don't want to be careful about what I'm saying. When you start getting specific, I'm just talking about general stuff here. We're vibrational beings in a vibrational universe. And as vibrational beings, there is no separation between us. There's no separation between us. We think there is. In our physical minds, there is a separation, but there's that duality. That's the duality between our own physical mind and our own overview self that we don't know about. And so, of course, we don't know about our collective overview self either, because each individual has that overview self. If we don't know about our own, why would we know about our collective one? And at this collective level, there is no win that trumps the win-win. The win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win. There is no win-lose that could possibly trump the win-win-win-win of the paradigm we are actually playing. And there is ways to work the mathematics, to work your equations, so that what you end up with in the end is systems that are win-win. So anybody who is in charge of systems building needs to understand the overview mind, the vibrational universe, the primacy of vibration, and the secondary nature of the physical world. And so if you want to change the physical world to fix physical problems that you and I can physically see, you have to line up vibrationally first, so that then all the impulses and ideas that you come up with that connect to the greater field around you are in alignment. In alignment with you, in alignment with it, in alignment with everything. Do you understand how this works? Who am I? Who am I? I know this is the answer, because at the end of these equations all shake out, so that in the end there is complete allowance for diversity, and there's absolute equity across the board, as everyone understands how they can get what they want. I'll tell you how to get what you want. You don't have to change the laws. You have to understand the laws of the universe, and then you can get what you want. The problem is within your own self, you have to stop crossing your own desires. You are the one who is messing up what you want, because you're not clear about what you want. Part of you're crossing your own energy stream. There is no sin greater than that. And there is no sin other than that, actually. And there is no sin. That's not sin. That's just ignorance. That's lack of understanding. And so as we move forward with our challenges and our what's another word for challenges that we face every day? This is the task. to understand our own personal selves, our own personal biotechnological equipment, and how it works, how it plugs into the field around you, and how when you act in the physical arena, the emotion that you are in as you act, the mood you are in, is the most important aspect of the characteristic of what you're doing. I think of it as the angle of entry into the field of action. It's like imagine a space module re-entering the atmosphere. It's that kind of, what angle of entry are you coming in on to the field of action? Are you coming in at the kind of angle that is gonna like highly agitate and crisp you up in the atmosphere? Or are you coming in at an angle, that where you're just gonna just smoothly just spin in until you land in the Pacific Ocean, light as can be? What mood you are in as you act determines how you are, your angle of entry into the field of action. I like that as a visual. That's been my new one the last week or two. I'm still working on how to incorporate that as the perfect, people go, oh, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Think of yourself as like this spirit orbiting the field of action, which is whenever you act on this earth in physicality. Like anything, go make dinner, go fight with your wife, or go take a shower, go to work, or anything that you're doing, you are in the field of action. And if you're not in the field of action, if you're just sitting there with your eyes closed and you're thinking about things, that's kind of you where you really are. And then how you choose to act, that's you entering the field of action. And you can tell whether someone is in good communication between their two selves, depending on how they are acting. If you are in good communication between your two selves, the very first thing you notice is that you are in positive emotion. You are in positive emotion because your greater self is always in positive emotion. There is no negative emotion for your larger self, because what your larger self really is doesn't have anything to do with emotion in a way. It's a very, very, very high frequency because it is the sum total of all the vibrations in all of the universe. It's the holographic large set of universal information flowing through you. That's what your higher self actually is. And when you think in ways that are not in resonance with what your inner being knows to be true in reference to the whole field that she has absolute access to, because it's holographic. And actually, the information of the entire universe is present in the Planck field of every single proton. So you don't actually even have to be bigger than a proton to have access to some version of all the universe and all of the information in all of the universe. And I possess a body that has trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of protons. I couldn't even begin to tell you how many protons there would be in my 50 to 100 trillion cells. You could do the math. You figure out approximately how many in each cell, and then approximately how many protons in every atom, and approximately how many atoms in each cell, and then you multiply that by the approximately 50 to 100 trillion cells in each one of your, in everybody's body, and add that all up, and that's how many protons that I have, and each and every one of them is locked into the information of the rest of the universe holographically through its Planck field that is touching. It's that the Planck field is like dancing together, zapping its information, trading and shifting, but it isn't like telephone where it starts on one side of the field and has to go make it all the way to the other side of the universe. It's not like that. It happens from the center outwards, as every single Planck reports up to the center every Planck instant. So it's like all of the parts are uploading their information to the whole, and the whole is then downloading the image of the wholeness back down to all the parts. That's how come you have all the information of the universe right where you are. How special are you? You are extremely and enormously special. You are here because the universe needs you. Don't discount yourself. As you discount yourself, you become the garbage that you think you are. You now become the discord that you think you want to resist. Resistance is futile, people. Resistance is the problem. You're resisting the darkness instead of preferring the light. Don't waste your time resisting the darkness. There's no end to that. There's no bottom to that pit of darkness resistance. You can't resist the darkness. Resistance is futile, and that's actually what they mean when the resistance is futile. That's from Doctor Who. That was supposed to be a Dalek. That wasn't a very good Dalek. It actually sounded more like doesn't matter. Something else. If I had a minute to think about it, but obviously I gotta keep the show moving. Which, by the way, I could stop the show because I realize that I'm at an hour and 1 minute left. I mean, an hour and a minute in. So I think I will end the show. But I'll be back tomorrow. I say that. I am always back. I never leave, actually. Sometimes I broadcast, and sometimes I record and don't broadcast. And anyway, I still feel inspired to fill in these places, to fill in these gaps of our understanding of who we are so that we do a better job of being the collective self that we are, so that we understand where we're going. And when I say understand where we are going, and I'm saying it without having to forget where we've been. Let's understand all of it. Let's understand who we are and what we are all about. And be nicer. Be nicer to yourself. And you will find that in being nicer to yourself, you find yourself being nicer to others. Be nicer to yourself and others. And until tomorrow, do the best you can. What other platitudes of trite advice can I heap on?
So nice to finally meet you. Pete has told me so much about you.
Well, nothing more than just the last.